This is Poetry 1, which is a discussion of, I've chosen here R.L. Barths' A Letter from An Hoc 4 by a Seedbed. This should be in your course pack. It will be on page 1 of your course pack. It is the very first thing. I've chosen this because Barth is a great poet. He is a Vietnam War veteran, as most of I think almost all the, if not all, of the poets I use or have chosen are. And he is telling this story from the point of view of the soldier who has been at war for a while, and he doesn't believe the stuff that got him there. Basically, if he joined up, he no longer believes. If he was drafted, yeah. So he's a doubter, and he's observing the world of Vietnam around him. The world of Vietnam is an intensely agrarian place. At this point, the majority of Vietnamese live in the countryside, not in big cities. There are really only a couple of big cities. Hanoi in the north, Saigon in the south, and kind of right bang in the middle, Da Nang on the coast. There are a few other cities that have some build up because the French built them up. Hue, which is spelled Hue. Anyway, so he's looking at this ground. So I'm going to read the poem and then I'll go back through it. So I'm going to read it and then I'll stop and then we'll go back through it. Some distance away, you can see across paddies and woods, in this stunned glare of midday, 6 green shades like moods that betray the ville we have been patrolling since first light, humping for the far foothills as if in mad flight from the privation of palm leaf huts, wood hose, small pieces of china, and eyes that shun our faceless faces. There are no young men. They are hiding, Viet Cong or dead. Only the old folk, children, and empty-breasted mothers still remain, survivors among all this wreckage. Are they trying to retain some hold, or to edge from a commitment, patiently waiting out their desire? I don't know. Once arrogant, bringing aid to fire of napalm and lead, I become one of their witnesses to history. This seedbed with all its crevices, sluicing through earth's crust, the seedbed like a dry pod shaken over dead land, like lust without a woman. That is an amazing poem. Okay, so let me start by talking about a few of these terms, and then as I start into discussing the poem, I will move on to another clip. The terms that he uses come out of the fact that before the Americans went to fight in Vietnam, starting in basically the early 60s, 1960, the Vietnamese fought the French, who colonized the country for about 10. Well, they colonized the country for nearly 100 years, basically, which I'll talk about in this coming lecture. And so what the Vietnamese did, and you'll see this in Go Tell the Spartans, is they inherited French culture, and they inherited with that the tendency to speak French, because they had to get along with the colonialist aggressor, basically, that had come to run the country. And so the French comes into the slang, and the Vietnamese, as they're talking to the Americans, use French, little pieces of French. So the Americans pick it up. And so you'll see the Americans, it will say, you'll see this in Full Metal Jacket, where the soldiers say something, too beaucoup, it's too much. Because that's the French holdover. The same thing is true here for words like ville, where ville here is the French usage for describing these very small settlements that we would call hamlets, small little groupings of, say, 4 or 5 families together. So An Hoc 4 indicates that there are at least 3 other An Hoc 1, An Hoc 2, 3, 4. So these are little, it's all together it would be a village. But they can be quite separated because they have to work the fields. Okay, I'll stop there.